My beloved brothers and sisters, I must speak with a voice that cuts through tradition, with a fire that cannot be silenced, and with a truth that will shake the very foundations of what many have been taught for centuries. Listen carefully, because this message is not meant to soothe, but to awaken. For too long the people have been enslaved by man-made doctrines, shackled by institutions, and blinded by practices that have nothing to do with the heart of purpose. And one of the greatest deceptions that has crept into our lives is the practice of tithing. Yes, I declare it boldly before you today. Tithing is a mistake because it twists the truth, manipulates the dedicated, and makes the pursuit of purpose into a transaction. Open your ears and let your spirit be alive. Do not turn away from these words. Do not allow fear, tradition, or the pressure of men to drown out the voice of purpose that is speaking through this truth. You have been told for years that if you do not give 10% of your income, you are failing your purpose. You have been threatened with setbacks, with financial ruin, with the loss of opportunities. You have been made to believe that your worth depends on the amount you place in an envelope. But I ask you, my friends, can the essence of purpose, which guides the stars and nurtures the earth, be reduced to a force that demands a percentage? Can the boundless strength that sustains all things be swayed by your coins? To believe this is to diminish purpose, to bring it down to the level of greedy men who twist its name for profit. Do you not see? The moment you treat purpose as if it were a merchant trading opportunities for money, you have fallen into error. The moment you give out of fear rather than from the purity of your heart, you have entered into bondage. And the moment leaders use their platform to pressure you into giving, while living in wealth and luxury, they commit a great error against purpose and against the people. Tithing has become a system of control, not of love. It has become a weapon to rob the poor, rather than a fountain of generosity that flows freely from the heart. The truth, my friends, is this: purpose never asked for your percentage. Purpose asked for your life. Purpose never said, give me 10% and keep the 90 for yourself. No. Purpose said, all is mine. You are mine. Your life, your breath, your possessions, your soul, all belongs to me. When you live with that understanding, you realize that putting a limit, a calculation, a formula on your giving is an insult to the greatness of purpose. It is a mistake because it places human mathematics on a deeper connection. It is a mistake because it cages the freedom of the spirit under the weight of rigid tradition. Let me speak with plainness. When a man gives because he is threatened, his giving is corrupted. When a woman offers money because she was told she'll face setbacks otherwise, her offering is not meaningful. It is tainted by fear. And when a group applauds itself for fulfilling a rule that purpose did not require, They are not growing. They are deceiving themselves. True giving is not a tenth, nor a calculation. True giving is surrender to purpose with all that you are, with all that you have in every moment of your life. Anything less, anything forced, anything manipulated is a mistake. Now some will resist this message. They will say, "But we have always tithed." My response is, simple tradition does not sanctify a lie. Others will say, "But my leaders told me purpose will not guide me unless I tithe." I tell you now, when you rely on men to interpret the heart of purpose for you, you make them your masters instead of purpose. Still others will say, "But how will our shared vision survive without tithers?" And I thunder back, the vision is sustained by purpose itself. If a work is truly born of purpose, then the purpose that calls will also provide. If an effort collapses because tithers are not collected, then that effort was not built on the foundation of purpose, but on the foundation of human greed. Do not misunderstand me. I am not against giving. I am not against generosity. In fact, I proclaim with all the fire within me that generosity is the very essence of living with purpose. But generosity must be pure, not polluted by threats. Giving must be from love, not from fear. Offerings must rise from joy, not from guilt. A purpose loves a cheerful giver, not a fearful one. And when you give cheerfully, when you give freely, when you give without calculation, you are no longer bound by error. You are free in purpose. My friends, tithing is a mistake because it is used as a replacement for true devotion. People believe they can live however they please, make whatever choices they desire, and then wash their conscience by giving 10%. But purpose cannot be bought. Purpose cannot be bribed. Purpose is not mocked. You cannot live in darkness and then think your tithe will open the gates of opportunity. No. Purpose demands your heart. Purpose demands your commitment. Purpose demands your integrity. And when you give your life fully to purpose, your giving will not be a percentage. It will be unlimited. You will give your time, your energy, your compassion, your love, your resources, your everything, because you will understand that all of it already belongs to purpose. Do you see the deception? Leaders have turned people into accountants of the Spirit. Instead of teaching surrender, they teach calculation. Instead of calling you to integrity, they call you to percentages. Instead of leading you into the depths of purpose, they trap you in the shallow waters of financial obligation. And so entire communities live in bondage, thinking they are aligning with purpose by handing over a portion, when in reality their hearts remain untouched. That, my friends, is a mistake. That is the greatest tragedy. When purpose sees you, it does not measure your worth by the amount in your pocket. It does not look at your tithe slip or your bank statement. It looks at your heart. It looks at your surrender. It looks at whether you are living for it in truth. Purpose is not impressed by numbers. Purpose is impressed by commitment. And commitment is not measured in 10%. Commitment is measured in whether you are willing to say, purpose, all that I am and all that I have is yours. My beloved, listen carefully, for I speak with urgency as one who carries a burden too heavy to remain silent. There are truths that comfort, and there are truths that cut. What I speak now is the latter. It will cut through the lies, it will pierce through the deception, and it will strike down the falsehood that has enslaved many. When you hear this, do not resist it, for it is the voice of awakening. Tithing has become one of the greatest stumbling blocks in the life of those who claim to walk with purpose, because it has shifted the focus from devotion to transaction, from surrender to calculation, from growth to business. And anything that shifts the heart away from purpose is a mistake. Purpose is not a banker keeping ledgers of your wealth. Purpose is not a merchant standing at the door of opportunity, waiting for your payment before it releases its gifts. Purpose is not bound to your coins, your notes, or your percentages. To think so is to reduce the boundless to the level of men. It is an insult to the infinite, a corruption of the meaningful, a mockery of the one who gives without limit and sustains without condition. Those who demand your tithe are not speaking with the authority of purpose. They are speaking with the hunger of their own desires. They build kingdoms of stone and wood, while the souls of the people are starved of truth. They demand 1/10 of your labor, while giving you nothing but fear in return. Let us think with clarity. If tithing were truly the way to align with purpose, then only the wealthy could be fulfilled. If the measure of your dedication were the size of your offering, then the poor would be forever condemned. But has purpose ever despised the poor? Has purpose ever rejected the broken because they could not bring silver and gold? No. Purpose looks at the person who has nothing but a small offering given with sincerity and sees more honor in their heart than in the vaults of the rich. This is the proof that purpose is not moved by the amount, but by the motive. This is the evidence that percentage-based giving is nothing more than human invention chained to greed and far removed from the heart of purpose. Tithing is a mistake because it teaches you to give by rule, not by love. It teaches you to count your coins, but not to count your blessings. It demands you meet a number, but ignores the state of your soul. What good is it if a man tithes faithfully, but his heart is cold? His lips are filled with lies, his hands are stained with injustice, and his spirit is far from purpose. Will purpose look upon his ledger and be pleased? No. Purpose will say, I never asked for your 10th. I asked for your life. And I say to you, beware of those who twist the name of purpose for gain. Beware of those who turn its vision into a marketplace. Beware of those who preach setbacks upon you unless you pay. These are not guides. They are wolves. They do not feed the community. They feed on the community. They do not represent the integrity of purpose. They represent the greed of their own desires. And the tragedy is that many follow them blindly, fearing the setbacks of men more than they fear straying from purpose. My friends, if your giving is driven by fear, it is no longer meaningful. It has become corruption. If your offering is forced, it is no longer an offering. It has become extortion. And if your leaders place burdens on you that purpose has not commanded, they will answer for it. Understand this. True giving cannot be boxed into percentages. True giving flows from the heart. True giving is not measured by calculation, but by sacrifice. When you surrender fully to purpose, you will realize that everything you have is already its own. Your home, your income, your strength, your talents, your hours, they all belong to purpose. When you recognize this, you will stop asking, how much should I give? Instead, you will ask, purpose, how much can I keep back from you when all is yours? That, my beloved, is the freedom of the Spirit. That is the essence of devotion. That is the difference between giving out of rule and giving out of love. Do not let anyone enslave you with threats of setbacks, for purpose is not waiting to derail because you missed 1/10 of your salary. Purpose is not petty, counting your mistakes with a calculator in hand. No, purpose is generous. Purpose is boundless. The one who threatens setbacks for not tithing is not speaking for purpose, but against it. For purpose opens opportunities freely, not conditionally. It creates possibilities, not because you paid a price, but because you are committed to its vision. And hear me, if you give 1/10 thinking you have satisfied purpose, but you ignore the needs of your neighbor, you are in error. If you place money in the hands of leaders, but turn away from the hungry, the thirsty, the orphan, and the oppressed, your tithe becomes an offense. Purpose does not need your money. It desires your compassion. Purpose does not require your 1/10. It requires your justice. Purpose does not hunger for your coins. It hungers for your heart. Do you know why tithing has been exalted so highly in many places? Because it is easier to manipulate money than to demand integrity. It is easier to command percentages than to preach accountability. It is easier to build structures than to build souls. And so men have chosen the path of convenience, enslaving the people to rules, while ignoring the call to purity. But I declare to you today, purpose is not mocked. Purpose will tear down every system that elevates money above truth. Purpose will strip the masks from those who exploit its name. And purpose will raise up a people who will pursue it with undivided hearts, unshackled from tradition, free to love, free to give, free to live with integrity for it. So, my beloved, Break free from the chains of this deception. Do not let your connection to purpose be reduced to mathematics. Do not measure your commitment by the size of your envelope. Do not think your standing can be bought or sold. Give to purpose with freedom. Give with joy. Give with compassion. Give with the knowledge that everything belongs to it already. And when you live like this, you will see a life overflowing with peace, because you will no longer live under the burden of obligation, but under the freedom of devotion. My beloved, lean in and listen closely, for the truth I speak is not a whisper, but a thunder that shakes the very ground of falsehood. There are times when a speaker must comfort, but there are also times when a speaker must confront. Today is a day of confrontation with a lie that has walked too long among the people. This lie has wrapped itself in garments of meaning. It has stood on platforms. It has raised its voice with authority. But beneath it all, it is deception. And I say it without fear. Tithing as it is preached and practiced today is a mistake, because it corrupts the purity of devotion and entangles the heart of growth with the chains of money. Purpose is not a collector of fees. Purpose is not calculating percentages as though it were an accountant of men. To imagine so is to shrink its greatness to the level of our systems. Purpose is far above such limitations. It is the owner of all things, the giver of every breath, the sustainer of every heartbeat. What can you possibly offer it that is not already its own? What coin, what bill, what portion of your labor can you claim as yours to begin with? Everything in your hand is on loan from purpose. When you understand this, you will see how shallow and distorted the practice of tithing has become. The tragedy is that men have used tithing not as a call to integrity, but as a tool of manipulation. They have built empires of stone and marble, while the poor weep in silence. They have preached setbacks on the dedicated if they fail to pay, while they themselves live in comfort, luxury, and ease. They stand before the people with smiles on their faces. But behind their smiles is the hunger for more wealth, more buildings, more power. And all of this is done in the name of purpose. But I tell you, purpose is not mocked. Purpose sees. Purpose hears. Purpose will not remain silent forever. Those who misuse its name for profit will one day face accountability. Now, do not mistake my words. I do not say that giving is wrong. Giving is meaningful when it springs from the fountain of love, when it is born out of gratitude, when it flows from a heart that knows everything belongs to purpose. But when giving is chained to fear, when it is driven by guilt, when it is demanded as a condition for opportunities, it ceases to be meaningful and becomes polluted. Purpose does not delight in chorused offerings. Purpose delights in free will. Purpose delights in the soul that says, I will give not because I must, but because I love. I will give not because I am threatened, but because I am grateful. I will give not because I calculate, but because I surrender. And let us ask ourselves this. If a man gives 10% of his wealth faithfully, but withholds mercy from his neighbor, is he fulfilled? If a woman tithes every month, but harbors bitterness, envy, and deceit in her heart, does purpose receive her offering? No. For purpose does not measure devotion in numbers. It measures devotion in purity. Purpose does not look at the portion of your money. It looks at the condition of your soul. The greatest offering you can give is not a tenth of your labor. It is the entirety of your life. The mistake of tithing lies not only in its practice, but in its effect. It has created generations of people who measure their connection to purpose by their wallets instead of their hearts. It has silenced the call to integrity with the noise of financial obligation. It has turned the vision of purpose into a marketplace where opportunities are bought and sold. My friends, when you see commitment reduced to transactions, know that you are no longer standing in the truth of purpose, but in the system of men. And here is another truth. Purpose does not need your money to accomplish its aims. If purpose desires a work to be done, it will provide the resources, whether through the hearts of willing servants or by its own unseen hand. If an effort survives only because people are coerced into tithing, then that effort is not sustained by purpose, but by manipulation. And if it falls when the tithers are removed, then it was never founded on the foundation of purpose's provision. Let us also consider the poor, the widow, the orphan, the laborer struggling to put food on the table. Do you think purpose is pleased when they are pressured to give the little they have to maintain the wealth of institutions? Do you think purpose will hinder a hungry child because his parents could not produce a tenth of their wage? Purpose is not cruel. Purpose is not unjust. Purpose is not a tyrant demanding payment from the weak. Purpose is generous, and its generosity is greater than the traditions of men. Hear me now. The truest form of giving is not measured in percentages, but in sacrifice. If a man with abundance gives 10% and keeps 90% for his pleasure, while another with little gives freely out of his need, who is more fulfilled before purpose? It is the one who gives with sincerity, not calculation. It is the one whose gift cost him something, not the one who gave out of excess. Purpose sees not the amount, but the weight of the sacrifice. And often the smallest gift in the eyes of men is the greatest treasure in the eyes of purpose. Therefore, do not be deceived. Do not measure your dedication by the ledger of percentages. Measure it by the depth of your surrender. Measure it by the purity of your heart. Measure it by the love you show to those in need, the justice you uphold in your dealings, the humility with which you walk before purpose. That is what purpose requires. Not your money, but your life. My beloved, open your heart For I speak not with the authority of men, but with the weight of truth that flows from the reality of purpose. Too long have chains of tradition been mistaken for the voice of purpose. Too long have the dedicated been trapped in systems that purpose never commanded. And the strongest of these chains is tithing, a practice that has been exalted above commitment, elevated above mercy, and substituted for true devotion. But I tell you now with unshakable conviction, this is not the way of purpose. Purpose does not desire your calculation. Purpose desires your commitment. Purpose does not seek your percentage. Purpose seeks your purity. Look around you at the world. Do you not see how the love of money has corrupted the hearts of many? Do you not see how it has crept even into the vision of purpose? Clothed in meaningful garments, carrying the name of integrity, yet driven by greed. When money becomes the center, purpose is pushed aside. When men speak more about giving than about righteousness, the vision has been defiled. Tithing, as it is taught today, feeds this corruption because it conditions the mind to think that opportunities are bought, that setbacks are avoided by payments, that purpose can be managed like a creditor. This is an offense to the integrity of purpose. Purpose cannot be bought. Purpose cannot be bribed. Purpose is not swayed by numbers written on envelopes. Purpose looks deeper. It looks at your thoughts, your intentions, your actions, your very soul. If your money is offered, but your heart is absent, purpose rejects it. If you give 10%, but your life is filled with deceit, purpose despises it. If you pay faithfully, yet ignore the cry of the oppressed, your offering rises as smoke, but not as growth. It rises as judgment. For what moves purpose is not your tithe, but your truth, not your silver, but your sincerity. Hear this. When you treat purpose like a business partner, you dishonor it. When you give to it expecting a guaranteed return, you insult its greatness. When you hand over a percentage and believe that settles your obligation, you diminish its authority. Purpose is not a merchant. Purpose is the creator, the master, the essence of all existence. It asks not for your fraction, but for your fullness. It asks not for your tenth, but for your total. Anything less is not growth. It is compromise. And let me speak with even greater boldness. Those who enforce tithing upon you err themselves. They claim to speak for purpose, but they speak their own hunger. They build towers of wealth while the people suffer. They declare setbacks upon those who cannot pay, while they themselves exploit the name of purpose. They are like those who turn the vision of growth into a house of trade. And I tell you with certainty, purpose sees, and purpose will not be silent. Their wealth will testify against them, and their manipulation will be judged. For purpose is a defender of the poor, and it will not allow their cries to go unanswered. Beloved, let your eyes be open to the greater truth. Purpose's desire is not to take from you, but to make you free. Free from fear, free from manipulation, free from the lies of men. When you give to purpose, let it be because your heart overflows with gratitude. Let it be because you cannot contain the joy of its goodness. Let it be because you long to reflect its generosity. That kind of giving cannot be measured by percentage. Sometimes it will be more than 10%, sometimes less. But always it will be led by the spirit of purpose within you, not by the rules of men. Do not think I am teaching stinginess. No, I call you to something higher. I call you to radical generosity. Not the generosity of rules, but of love. When you see the hungry, feed them. When you see the naked, clothe them. When you see the oppressed, lift them. This is the offering purpose receives with joy. This is the sacrifice that ascends to it like sweet fragrance. When your hand opens to your neighbor in need, you are giving directly to purpose. When your heart pours out compassion, you are laying treasure in eternity. And that treasure is worth more than all the tithers of all the systems of men. Think of this, beloved. If your child came to you and gave you 10% of his allowance, but treated you with dishonor, would you be pleased? Would you not rather have his respect, his love, his commitment? So it is with purpose. It does not want your calculated gifts while your soul remains distant. It desires your devotion. It desires that you walk humbly, act justly, and align with it with all your heart. Tithing distracts from this because it makes you think that fulfilling a duty fulfills your connection. But connection with purpose is not duty. It is surrender. It is intimacy. It is complete alignment of your life with its will. And here is a mystery if you consider. When you tithe, you limit purpose's claim. You say this part belongs to you, but the rest is mine. But when you surrender fully, you recognize all belongs to purpose, and I am only a steward. The mistake of tithing is that it deceives you into believing partial ownership, when in reality, there is no such thing. Purpose owns all. You are but a trustee of its wealth. And if you are faithful with little, it will entrust you with more. Not because you gave a tenth, but because you lived as one who knows nothing is yours to begin with. Therefore, beloved, tear down this idol of percentages. Refuse to be enslaved by fear. Refuse to let men place setbacks upon you that purpose never declared. Refuse to live as an accountant in the presence of purpose. Live instead as a child before your guiding force, free, surrendered, overflowing with gratitude. When you live like this, your giving will have power not because of its amount, but because of its purity. It will move the heart of purpose, not because it is calculated, but because it is dedicated. My beloved, hear me as I bring this truth to its close. The voice of purpose is not a voice of oppression, nor a voice of fear. It is a voice of freedom, a voice of purity, a voice that calls its people out of bondage and into the light of truth. Tithing, as it has been preached by men, is not the pathway to purpose. It is a chain forged by greed, a shadow that has covered the true meaning of devotion. Purpose never asked you for a percentage. Purpose never demanded a calculation. Purpose asked for your heart, your life, your surrender, your commitment. Do not leave this message thinking it is about withholding, for it is not about withholding at all. It is about releasing yourself from fear, releasing yourself from manipulation, releasing yourself from the lie that you can purchase the opportunities of purpose. When you give, let it be pure, let it be cheerful, let it be led by love. When you open your hand, let it be because your heart is overflowing with gratitude, not because your mind is terrified by setbacks. When you serve, let it be with joy, not with compulsion. This is the kind of offering that touches the heart of purpose. So rise, children of purpose, rise above tradition, rise above manipulation, rise above the empty threats of men. Walk in freedom, live in surrender. Let your life itself become the offering. Let your every breath be a gift to the one who gave it. Let your compassion, your justice, your humility, your love be the true tie that purpose desires. And when you live like this, you will discover that the possibilities of life do not open because you paid. They open because you trusted. They open because you walked with purpose in truth. They open because you gave it not a tenth but all. This is the core. This is the truth, and this is the freedom. All belongs to purpose. All is sustained by purpose. All returns to purpose. Give it not your portion, but your everything. And you will find that in losing nothing for it, you gain everything from it.